So, Josiah, as you know, this season of the podcast, I'm trying to give each of my guests some ownership of their episode. And this is your time to make a presentation about anything you want as long as it is party room related. So, what do you got for me today?
All right. So as I was thinking about what to present, I wanted to do something that was on brand for Josiah.
Okay.
So I decided to do the PRFF 2024 Plerfect rankings. So what we're going to do is take the films from 2024 and apply the Plerfect scale to each of them and see how they stack up.
Okay.
Now, the Plerfect scale was designed, if you remember from the film, to analyze toilet plungers. Toilet plungers are slightly different than short films. So I've had to kind of stretch things a little bit to make it all fit. However, I'll explain how this works. All right, so the mission.
I'm sorry, I'm so excited.
The system that we used to analyze the 14 films of Party Room Film Festival 5. The first area that we analyze them on is balance. The way that I applied this to films is the balance of the film as far as how much fluctuation there is in the storyline. So, like, is it pretty consistent all the way through as far as the mood and everything that you're getting, or are there like drastic changes in it? What is the overall balance of it? Or is it a film that is made to throw you off balance? The next area that we analyzed is strength. So the first thing that I looked at for the strength category is, was it on time? Did it win its matchup? And was it on the winning team? And so that would kind of determine the range that it could score in. And then from there, the rest of the strength was just kind of somewhat more like narratively driven as far as the overall production and everything like that. Next, we have weight. The weight of the films was determined based on looking at the filmmaker's entire filmography as far as what they've created and like where this film probably stacks up in importance as far as the other things that they've created and all of that kind of a thing. And then finally, of course, we have plungeability. Plungeability may be one that seems difficult to apply to films. So the way that I decided to make this work is we are going to determine if the film was a toilet plunger. What kind of a toilet plunger would it be? And how effective would that toilet plunger be at unclogging a toilet? Which is, arguably the most important thing that a toilet plunger can do.
Okay.
So that's the system that we're going to use. So now we're going to run through. We will go through in order of release. So we'll start at the beginning of the festival and work our way to the end. And we'll go over what each of these things scored and a little bit about why. Are you ready?
I'm so excited.
Good. I'm glad. All right. Opening film. Now back to the show. Zach.
Zach.
So in the balance category, this film actually did quite well. because there pretty much nothing happens over the course of it, other than like that short cutaway to me. So balance wise, it scored very high. That was pretty much the only category it scored well in. Strength wise, I'll remind you the 3 categories we look at to first determine is, was it on time? Answer is no. Did it win its matchup? Also no. Did his team win? Also no. So I think this got the lowest strength score at 1.5. And I think this was the only film that was not on time, lost its matchup, and the team lost as well. So that was a tough break for Zach this year. Weight, got a very low weight score. I mean, Zach would score super highly on all of his other films as far as their narrative and all of that. I think this one does fit in with the overall theme of the summer for Zach and I. But as far as filmmaking wise, I would say not a whole lot of weight to this one.
Mm-hmm.
And then plungeability. So if now back to the show, was turned into a plunger. I think that plunger would be a makeshift plunger because your toilet is overflowing. You don't have anything, so you just grab whatever is closest and use that. So not great. Only a 3 because chances are whatever you find is not going to be as good at plunging as an actual plunger. The average of these 4 ratings for this one are 4.025, and the rank is 14. So this was the lowest ranked on the Plerfect scale of all the films. Next, we're moving on to Make the Podcast Great Again by Cody. The balance of this one was also fairly high at a 7.1, pretty consistent across as far as what the narrative is. And then the strength of this one, Cody's was not on time. However, he did win his matchup and his team won. So he was in the higher range with that and got a 7.3, I think somewhat boosted by, tying it into the festival with the podcast and all of that. And then weight wise, I would say it got a 4.6, so like pretty middle range. Some of that was just because it was so specific to the festival. Like you very much need to know the overall what was going on overall in that year to make sense of this film. And then plungeability. So if Make the Podcast Great Again was a plunger, that plunger would take you back in time to just before you clogged the toilet. Which sounds like a good thing. However, I only gave it a 6.1 on the plungeability rating because you still have to then poop. Like whatever you did was that, like that's still an issue because you just went back in time again. So you could just be stuck in a cycle where you go and you try to unclog the toilet and the plunger takes you back. And I don't know. I mean, you could kind of like, So I think that's a bit of a disadvantage to that one. But overall, pretty cool. So overall, the average is 6.275. And the ranking for this is 7. So right in the middle of them.
Nice.
All right. Next, we move on to Science by Aaron. The balance of this one, it only got a 5.6 on balance, despite the fact that it's pretty consistent all the way through up until the very end, where it just goes wild. The reason I put it as a little bit of a lower balance score is because the whole film is somewhat made to throw you off balance because you're confused as to what's happening, why it's happening, who the people are, all of those things, which I feel like kind of sets the audience a little bit off balance overall. Strength wise, he won. His team won, and he was on time. He did lose the matchup though, so fairly strong strength score. They also made it onto the top 10 as well for this year. So that also helps with strength score, I'd say. The weight of it put it at a 5.2. Fairly weighty, definitely shows Aaron's range as far as quirkiness. This is probably, I would say this is probably his strangest film to date. Would you agree?
I would think so.
Yeah, strangest of a very interesting this. But yeah, but it's great. And then the plungeability. So I said if this film were a plunger, it would be one that is duct taped together from a variety of random items. So like probably just an okay plunger as far as plunging ability. Overall, the ranking for this one, 5.400, and the rank was 13th. So a lot of these were pretty close. They were in like the 5 to 7 range. A lot of the averages came out to. So a lot of it came down to the decimal places as far as where they go. Delivery, Levi, balance. Obviously, this one did not get a very high balance score because it starts out as one film and then completely shifts in the middle, which is the point of it, but does score low on the balance score because of that. Strength-wise, he was on time and he won his matchup. So give it a pretty good strength score. And I feel like it definitely hit home during the festival as far as the plot twist.
Absolutely.
Weight-wise, also did quite well because of the callback to Le Pige. So definitely, I think an important one in Mitchell's overall arc of his filmmaking creativity and storytelling. And then plungeability. So if this film were a plunger, it would be a plunger that looks like a normal plunger at the beginning. And then you start to use it. And then just as it clears the clog, it shoots you in the face with cold water that was stored in the handle the entire time. So effective as a plunger, but also surprising. So 6.1 on the plungeability score. Overall, that comes out to 5.8, and the ranking for this one was 9th overall. All right, moving on to the next matchup was Offsides by Sam Mannix. So Offsides, balance score felt like fairly balanced across the story of it. You kind of know what direction it's heading because it is, Romeo and Juliet. So got a 7.5 for that. Strength-wise, Sam was on time, as he always is, but he not only lost his matchup, his team lost as well. So that really takes away from that strength score, drops him down to a 4.4. Weight-wise, kind of middle of the road, got a 5.1 for that. It was interesting. I mean, that we had Sam doing a script that Cody wrote, and then I did a script that Sam wrote. So it was interesting kind of having that shift around this year. And then plungeability for this one, it would be a plunger with a head that is shaped like a football. The issue with this is I don't think it would be great at unclogging because there's no hollow space to create that suction. So
Right.
it just got a 4.9. It would probably seal it up, the toilet, pretty well, but I don't know that it would do a great job at actually clearing it.
Mhm.
And so overall got a 5.475, which actually drops him to 12th overall. Again, there was a lot of like really close ones in that 5.5
Mhm.
to 5.4 range.
Mm.
Next, we move on to Mr. Numbers. So Mr. Numbers, on the balance score, did kind of middle of the road because it definitely throws you off a little bit as we get into it, and goes a little crazy in that middle section. Strength score wise, so this film was on time. It won its matchup, and his team won, which is a
Mhm.
powerful combination. Very good for his strength score. Got an 8.9 with that.
So, what would
Um,
make a perfect 10 as far as strength goes?
as far as strength goes, um, probably being like, if you were like the first to submit and you won your category and your team won and you won the Golden Dewey,
Ah,
uh,
okay.
that would probably be a 10 out of 10 at that point.
So,
If
spoilers, we are not seeing a 10 because Andrew's team did not win.
that is the case, yes,
Okay.
that is the case. Yeah, but yeah, so 8.9 for the strength. Weight wise, also quite weighty. I would say that this really brought together Paul's just his comedy along with the heartfelt side, and
Mhm.
bringing Lael into it. I feel like it was a really, and plus he's got Zach as main character. Like, it was just kind of a powerhouse of a film, I would say.
Mhm.
So plungeability, if this film were turned into a plunger, it would be Larry Boy. Like, you've got strong moral values, you've got superheroes. It would be Larry Boy, and he's pretty great at plunging. So 7.5 ability. The overall is 7.750, and his rank is 4. So
Wow.
quite high.
That's up there.
I think that's the highest that we've gotten so far.
Yes.
All right. We're about halfway through at this point. So next we got the M Squad. The M Squad, on the balance scale, scored quite highly because at the beginning of this film, he establishes that we're going to see all the mats and they're going to go in and try to pull off this, try to stop the bad guys. And that is exactly what happens in the film over the course of it. It definitely delivers on just sheer weight of matness.
Mhm.
Strength wise, didn't do as well because it was not on time and it lost its
Mhm.
matchup. His team did win, but overall it got a 4.1 on the strength side. Not all the effects were finished as well, which I think played into that score
Yeah, that hurts.
too. Weight wise, it did well in the weight category because, again, this is bringing together all of those mapped characters from various party room, the party verse, and I think that
Mhm.
was a really cool way to bring that together. And so I do think this has a very special spot in the overall arc of Matt's films. Plungeability. If this were a plunger, what would happen is every time you touched it, another plunger would spawn. So would it work? Yes. Would you have a lot of plungers around? Also, yes. So effective, but then have to figure out what to do with all those extra plungers because every time you need to use it, you're going to get another one. And if those ones also spawn more, then I could really turn into an interesting landslide. So M Squad overall score got a 6.600, and its ranking was 6th overall.
Hmm.
All right, moving on to I'm a by Andrew. All right, so I would say the balance score was fairly strong once the premise was set up. Definitely delivers on the fun campaign promise at the beginning. Very upbeat. Strength-wise, Andrew was on time and he won his matchup. His team, however, did not win. He did win the Golden Dewey, though, so that pulls in his direction. So he got a 9.2, so pretty strong. If his team had won any of the first list of that, yeah, then that probably would have been a perfect 10 out of 10. Weight-wise, got an 8.9, won the Golden Dewey. Again, that definitely plays into it. And I feel like Andrew went full force with his After Effects abilities and bringing in a puppet in like a Muppet for the first time in such an interesting way. Definitely added to the weight category. Plungeability. If this film were a plunger, it would be a plunger that promises to fix every problem with your toilet, clean it, and make it more energy efficient. But when you elect it and you purchase and use it, it's pretty much like any other plunger. So it got a 5. So this pulled down his overall average a little bit. So he got a 7.750, which is a tie with Mr. Numbers. So they're both in the rank of. I believe that was the only tie. Yeah. Next, we've got my 2 films. So first, we're starting with Ugh. The balance, I definitely do well in the balance category, even if people are writing for me. Have a lot of like balance in my films, pretty consistent. And this one particularly, like there's a little bit, like there's conflict that rises and falls, but overall, nothing too crazy happens over the midst of it. Strength-wise, it was on time, and it won its matchup, so it got a little bit higher on the strength score because of that. And weight-wise, I put it 6.1. I would say it definitely is an important one in my overall scheme of things. And it was very interesting to do this whole working off of scripts that somebody else wrote. Plungeability. If this film were a plunger, it would be a rock that's tied to the end of the stick. Rubber had not been invented yet, so it would really not be great for plugging a toilet. 1.6.
Really break bad. The toilet bowl, basically.
Yeah, you'd probably just crack the toilet if you tried to use it. So overall, comes to a 5.950, rank of 8. Next, we've got A Day at the Park. Balance-wise, this one scored a little lower on the balance side than UGG did because of the escalation between Melissa and Levi. Strength-wise, it was on time and it won, or no, it didn't win its matchup, but the team won. Yeah, the team won and it was on time. So pretty good on the strength score. Weight-wise, definitely very fun to have Melissa as a part of it. Really glad we were able to work with Levi. Got a 5.9 on that scale. And then plungeability. If this were a plunger, it would be one of those. This is kind of a specific thing, so I don't know if you know what this is, but I recently had our toilet clogged and was trying to solve the issue. So there are these rubber toilet stoppers that you plug it into the hole and then you connect a hose to it. and then you turn on the water, and the hose
Yeah.
goes through and forces it, and then just blasts water down and in. So that's the type of plunger that it would be. So probably pretty effective. Now those do have the risk that they could bust open your pipes, so you got to use with caution. Overall, this came out to a 7.175 and was in the rank of 5. All right.
Wow.
Next, we've got your film, The Unstoppable Force.
Woo.
Balance. High balance score. Definitely sets up the premise that you're going to be, fighting these different bad guys, and delivers on all of that over the course of it. So did really well in that category. Strength-wise, so your film was on time. It won its matchup, and your team won. So you and Paul, the only two who successfully checked all 3 of those boxes. So really high strength out of that. Weight-wise, I would say it was definitely really strong. I think it's definitely going to be one that's remembered and is put in the top of your films and stuff like that. So 7.6. And then plungeability. So if this film were a plunger, it would be a plunger that comes with a mech suit, battery sold separately. Which arguably would be great, because then it would give you more strength to plunging, and it would also keep you from getting splashed when it does splash. So 7.9 on the plungeability score. Overall, this got an 8.250, which is the number 1 score overall on the Plerfect rankings. So, congratulations to Unstoppable Force for winning overall as far as those different categories.
My film is Plerfect.
Perfect. Next, we've got Red Pilled Sabotage, directed by Trevor. Balance score was not terribly high, mainly because you're very much trying to figure out what's happening the entire time. So it didn't do too high in that. Strength-wise, it lost both its matchup and the team lost. It was on time though, so did better on this. Did kind of middle ground with the strength. Weight-wise, I'd say it definitely had that Trevor spark, and he tried some new things with this. And I think it will definitely be an important one. Plungeability. If this film were a plunger, I think that it would be a plunger that allows you to travel into people's dreams and talk to you when you use it. So, it would probably work. And, if you can use the talking to people's dreams, that could be good too. But I think it would work fairly well at actually unplugging the toilet. So overall, got a 5.675. Which is a rank of 10 overall. All right, final 2 films. We've got Chronicles of Light Book 6. Balance. I think this was the highest balance score, because it's also balanced out with the other 3 parts of the trilogy. So it had a bit of an advantage as far as balance goes going into it. Strength-wise, it was on time, but did lose its matchup, and his team lost as well. So that really brings down the strength score to being kind of middle of the road. Weight-wise, scored very highly, as it's the first complete trilogy in the festival. and has been an important part of Tanner's filmmaking journey in Party Room. Plungeability. If this film were a plunger, it would be a magic wand that just causes the blockage to disappear, which would be awesome.
I was about to
So
say.
I think this was the highest on plungeability because, no mess, no fuss. So overall, he got 8.225, which was second place behind the Unstoppable. Finally, we have
if you think about that one. So, if you think about that one, like if the blue team would have just tried a little bit harder, then that probably would have been the first place one. Yeah, because it's his strength that took the hit. It probably would have been 9s across.
That is true. Yeah, or at least a 7 or something like that. So yeah, that probably would have definitely pushed the edge. Yeah, because it was very close. You got an 8. You got 8.250, and Tanner got an 8.225. So extremely close. Yeah. All right. So finally, we got Levi's film. Balance-wise, definitely quite balanced over the course of it. Strength-wise, he wasn't on time, but he did win his matchup, and his team won, so did well in strength. Weight, 6.8. He did some really interesting new things with bringing these vegetables to life. Would have been awesome to see even more of that story play out. I really enjoyed the effects and stuff of that. Plungeability, if this film were a plunger, it would be just a potato, which would be the worst plunger because then you have to stick your entire hand in, and then even once you had done that, the potato probably wouldn't clear the clog very well. It would probably just make it worse. So he did get the lowest plungeability score, bringing him to an overall of 5.5560, and the rank was 11th overall. So yeah, that is the films from this past year analyzed using the Plerfect scale.
So, I mean, I guess one thing I have to ask is is me hosting the podcast, did that nudge me up to the top at all? Or were you just by the books, you did it scientifically, my film was perfect?
I went through and I rewatched each of the films and then assigned the different values to them. So I didn't add up what everything came out to until I had finished going through and giving each one the values for each of the 4 segments. And then at that point, I figured out what the averages were and where everything fell. Yeah. So.
Wow. Well, that is incredible. Everybody make sure you are on the lookout for the most perfect film of all time. Josiah is definitely going to go through the past 5 years and do this for all of them.
Oh, I don't know about all that.